So here's a quick video, hopefully a quick video, short video on how to build a calendar using Adobe InDesign. I'm actually using the Creative Cloud, and I'm going to walk you through how to build an 11 by 17 calendar manually. If you look online, a lot of people would ask, why would you go and build a calendar manually? Yeah, there's a great tool out there. It's called Adobe InDesign Calendar Wizard. If you do a search for Calendar Wizard InDesign, you'll be able to find it. It's a little free plugin that you can install into InDesign and build a calendar really easy. Great utility. Highly recommend it for those of you that are advanced InDesign users or advanced designers, people that know the software. But if you're trying to learn the software, one of the great ways that you can learn InDesign is to build a calendar. And that will force you to work with a lot of different features in InDesign and do it repetitively, which will get you in there using the software and really break the ice as far as the intimidation of how to use this program. Okay, so in this we'll cover a couple paragraph styles, we'll work in pages, we'll format text and work with graphic frames. We'll also work in master pages. So a calendar is a great way to learn the software. And that's what we're going to walk through right now. You can see that this is one I've kind of formatted and started working for, just to give you an idea of what we're going to do today. There's no picture here, but that's where you would place a picture, and hopefully we'll get to that in this through these videos. So first of all, I'm going to start off, make a new document. Okay, when you work in this, we're going to facing pages are more for a magazine or a newsletter, any kind of booklet, that type of project. In this case, we don't want facing pages, and I'm set to picas. I'm going to hit cancel and come back and change this first. We can even move that out of the way. Make a new document, or excuse me, go into InDesign and Preferences under Units and Increments. So here we'll want to change these to inches and inches. Should have come out inches. Well, let's make a new document and see if it comes out. Still not coming out inches. We can pick tabloid here. We can type in inches. It's probably because I have this document open. So we'll back out and try that again. InDesign and Preferences, Units and Increments. And now we can change it to inches. So it's specific to the document. That's why I wanted to change it before I come in and start working on this new document. So new document here, now we've got that. If we go to tabloid, that's going to give us 11 by 17. Like I was mentioning before, facing pages is more for booklet, newsletters, those type of things. For the calendar, we're actually going to turn that off. Okay, you could design it sideways, but I like to look at things straight up and down and worry about positioning later on. So, and you could make it 8.5 by 11 and do 2 pages for each one, but we're going to stick to 11 by 17 here. If you wanted to, the bleed and slug, you have some bleed options there. Typically the standard bleed size is 1/8 of an inch. You can build that in to begin with if you want. Margins, that's a good idea to set. We're going to leave it at default, but you would want to typically set that before you start an InDesign project. And we'll click OK. So one of the things about InDesign, it works on a temporary file. It's one of those programs that you want to save early, save often. That's a comment you'll hear me mention quite a bit as far as InDesign goes. So just to start off, we're going to go ahead and save this file. Save as. We're going to call this 11 by 17 calendar. Okay, and I'm going to I have a folder here. Great idea to organize your jobs by folder. So I'm going to go ahead and save that in a folder I've already created. Typically I name that by the job. Okay. And then I'm going to bring up my rulers. So if you don't have your rulers, Command R on a Mac, Control R on a PC will bring up your rulers. And somewhere in here, there's rulers. So you can see the shortcut there on the Mac. Brings up your rulers. If you have your rulers out, you can drag a guide by clicking in the middle of that ruler, in this case the top ruler, and we're going to drag down. Now if we want, we can split that 8.5 by 11, we could do 7, kind of split it on a third. In this case, maybe we'll see if we can get it at 7. We can also select that with the selection tool. If it's not quite right, you can type in a number or use the arrow keys to fine-tune that to give yourself a guide. If you wanted it directly in the middle, you could type in 8.5. Okay? So that's how you'd go ahead and manipulate your guides. That's going to be our guide here, so that we can have the top half be our picture, bottom half be our numbers. Pretty standard calendar here. We're not going to be too creative as far as how we build this. We just want to get in and play with the program, start to use the program a little bit. Okay. So as far as the tools go, you have your selection tool, that's the main selection tool, the direct selection tool. You can see that if you rest your cursor up there, you'll get a tooltip that will pop up and show you what you're working with. The other tools we're going to work with are a graphic frame, so mainly the rectangle graphic frames. We'll go ahead and draw a box out here. If you have a bleed, we can actually drag out to the bleed edge. Okay? And that's extra image that they'll need to trim it down to a final size. Now if you use a margin instead of going to the edge of the paper, you don't need a bleed, but if you want to go to the edge, you need to go actually a little bit past it. So that's how we would manipulate that. Once you've created that box, to select it, use the black selection arrow or the main selection tool. That will let you select that frame. Okay? And then you can use the bounding box to resize it, all that good stuff. But that X represents it's a graphic frame. If for some reason you've drawn a different kind of frame or converted it, you can go to the object down or drop down menu, change that to text, graphic, or unassigned. So you can switch back and forth. But in this case, we want that to be a graphic. We'll save that for a picture to be placed in later. So that'll be the top half of the calendar. Getting right into it, next thing we'll do is we'll come into the type tool. Okay, the type tool will allow us to drag type frames. These frames will allow us to do exactly what you think it does, put in type. Okay, in this case I want to do a 2015 calendar, so I'm just going to go ahead and type in 2015. I've set my default font to be Minion Pro, so I've got Minion Pro there. If we wanted to, we could do something a little bit bigger, maybe a 36 font, 48. Okay, so got a nice little 2015 right there. Now that's something, an element that I'm going to want to keep on every single page, and that's really easy for me to do. If I've got it created here on my page 1, if you pull out the pages palette, I've expanded mine so that you can see it, and I've got page 1 right here. You can see that it's the only one I'm working on. I could have made more when I started, but there's a reason I didn't. You'll see here in a little bit. But right there I've got 2015. If I want to come up to the Edit drop-down menu and cut that, Command X, or I could have right-clicked as well. I cut that, that will actually cut it off of that page and copy it. Okay? This is a perfect element because it's going to be on every page and we don't want to mess with it. I can put that in my master pages. So the way we select our pages is coming over here and actually double clicking that. So if I double click that, I'll actually get into the master page, and you can see that I'm in that master page. The name is highlighted here. The older versions of InDesign, it would be black. Okay, if I double click that, you can see I'm on page 1. I'm going to go back to the master page. Okay, I could have put that guide on here as well, but we've got that other one cut. If I'm on that page, I can go up to Edit and Paste in Place. That'll paste it in place, and that will show up on my master page. So that's a perfect example of what to use a master page for. An element that you don't want to change. As you can see, I've come back to page 1. Can't select it. There is a way to break that. I'm not going to tell you that because I don't want you to be too dangerous yet. But that is locked. If I want to edit it, maybe I change the year or put 14 instead of 15. I got to go back in, double click the master pages over here to edit that text box. Okay, So there's the master page. And there's the year. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the month. So I'll drag another box and we'll just start this off with January, or I could type in the month and then replace it. In this case I want it pretty big, 72, maybe even bigger than that. We can do 84 point. I'm going to leave it Minion regular. If you wanted to, you can tweak that font, but the nice thing is make sure that you have enough room for some of the longer months. I believe September and December may be a little bit longer. Don't do one starting with April or May. That may lead you to design without enough space there. So we've got the month right there. That's pretty much set. Now, one thing about this, if we build this in a way where we wanted to change the font or the color of the font or some of the options as far as that goes, we could really utilize our paragraph styles. I'm going to close this box so I can show you how to navigate there. But we could say name a new paragraph style for all the months, and later on, if we build that template right, we could go back and just change the style, which will change all the months. So that could be really useful for us. So we're going to go up to the window drop-down menu, and under styles, select paragraph styles. Okay. So I've set this the way I wanted it, Minion Pro 84 point. It's black text. I got my cursor in that box. I'm going to come over to this paragraph styles dialog box, this floating palette, and I'm going to create new. Come down to the new icon, click on that, and it gives me a new one. If I come and double click on that, it will open that paragraph option. Make sure you don't click on the other one because it'll change it. And I can call this months. So that will be the month paragraph style. So later on, if I come in and edit this and change some of the options in here, character, font, if I change any of those features, it'll change it on every month. Okay? So I don't have to go back and change it manually. It'll do automatic. Kind of a nice feature. So we've set up that paragraph. Don't really need to worry about the 2015 because we can just change that from the master page. So we didn't make that one. But when we make the numbers, the days of the week and the numbers, we'll actually add those in here as well. And we could add another one in called holidays. So you'll see that coming up. The asterisk here means it hasn't been saved. So like I mentioned before, save early, save often in InDesign, and you'll be a happy camper. You won't lose your work. So the next thing is we got to look at the numbers. So one reference that I like to use is timeanddate.com. So if you come to timeanddate.com, the main page here, we can change over here on the right. You got a calendar. We can type in 2015 and do a full year calendar for 2015. This is going to help us to figure out a few things. Holidays, of course, and you can custom set those. There's some nice features for time and date. And we also need to know how many weeks we'll have, when the first of the year starts. It's on a Thursday in January. How many days does January have in there? A lot of the information we can pull off of this site and use that as a resource. So that's one I refer students to quite a bit as far as building the calendars. So now that we know that, we've got a couple things going on. We want to look at how many weeks there are. So let's see what the longest one we have is. August. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got 6 there. So there's a few of them that are 6 rows. And instead of splitting this last one and sharing it with 24, we're just going to go ahead and build in and leave the extra space in the other ones. So we know now that we need 6 rows. We'll also need a 7th for the days of the week. So we're going to come in and start making those. So I'm going to select the type tool once again. And if I need to, I'm actually going to select the selection tool to deselect out of the text box I'm in, then come back to the type tool. And that way I can start drawing a new box. So I'm going to draw a text box, about that big. And I'm going to type in the number 30. number 30 just because it's a big number, take up a lot of that space, so we can use that for sizing. So I'm going to go ahead and play with the sizing, kind of figure out what size I want to do that. If I want that 68, maybe I want that a little bit smaller, 48. Let's go somewhere like 52. And let's make that bold. So 52 bold, maybe 54. Okay, so I've got that size. I want it a little bit bigger. Let's make that 60. Now another thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to center that. So we're going to center this in the box. That centers it left or right. That's the justification or alignment. We also would want to center that top to bottom. Now, if I select that with the selection tool, you can see that it has no attributes. On this particular one, I don't want it to show. I'm just going to have the numbers. But this is very much like some of the other Adobe products like Illustrator. You've got the fill and the stroke, and you can change those by using the swatches or the color palettes. We'll get to those later. On this one, we also want to center top to bottom. If you were doing lines, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. So I'm just using the black selection tool here. And to center it top to bottom, you need to go under Object and Text Frame Options. Command B on a Mac or Control B on the Windows. And that will let us align it, your vertical justification, we can change that to center. So at that point it changes it to center, and it's centered in that box. So we've got our first box there. We know we need a total of 7 rows. So we're going to use some of the InDesign features to create the rest of these. I'm going to make this 1.25 inches, and it's close to 1 inch, so we're going to make it even. And I'm going to go up to Edit, and I'm going to use the Step and Repeat feature. So I can do a grid. It's probably going to be the easiest. And we know that we need a total of 7 rows. I can turn on the preview to see this. And I can see that my box is 1 inch high, so I need to go in the vertical bigger than 1 inch. If I want it exact, I can put it right on 1 inch. Okay? If I want a little bit of a gap, we can add a little bit more, 1 inch and 1/8. And it's flowing past. We can't really go past this line in InDesign, but we'll figure that out here in a minute. So as far as columns, we need 7 days of the week. Oh, not 10, stop. Click too many times. And we got some lag. So there's our 7. And for the width, we'll turn that up. We could type in a number. So we'll go a little bit more. So that's set up how we need it. We'll just count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so we've got what we need. We click OK. They're all made. Okay. The nice thing is that we can stretch those. Now, if you're a typographer, you may cringe because you may think you're distorting the text. Unlike Illustrator, InDesign uses a text box. Lets us manipulate those things. Now, one of them didn't get adjusted for some reason. When you do the whole grid, it doesn't select that, so you've got to deselect and reselect that. So I just went through and basically used the undo features. In this case, I'm on a Mac, so it's Command Z. On a PC, you would hit Control Z. It will let you undo and go back to where we did. So I just need to reselect these. So I'm going to drag a marquee with this black arrow tool, select all of them, and then I can change these. And this is just changing the frames. This isn't changing the size of the font or messing with the font in any shape or form. So I'm actually going to bring that up a little bit. If I needed to, I could even bring up the character palette and go back to that 56 or something a little bit smaller. And there's my setup. So this one, we're going to go ahead and highlight this line. We're going to squish those down. Now this feature doesn't work the same if you're using a previous version of InDesign. So just be aware of that. I think that works in CC and CS6, but prior to that, it could be a little bit different. So I'm going to select all of these. We're going to turn those down a little bit more, even to go to 48. And well, we've got that selected. That's about the size where I want it. I'm going to come back in and highlight this and put in a capital S for Sunday. Just going to use one letter, and that's kind of your preference there. So I've got the days of the week there, and I think I'm going to even make those smaller, turn the bold off. So we're going to do that regular, maybe semi-bold. Oh, I'm going to go back to bold. So get that about where you wanted it. Get that set. And then what you can do is you can make that a paragraph style as well. So I double click that box, or I could have selected the text tool to come in here. Just make sure my cursor's in there. You can select it if you want, but the way the paragraph style works is you just have to have your I-beam in that style. So we're going to make a new one, paragraph styles. Once again, that's under Window, Styles, Paragraph Styles. We're going to click New and add a new one in there. That's this one right here, Paragraph Style 1. We're going to double click it so we can name that Days of the Week. Or I could have called it just Days. Now with this, I'm just going to select these and pick the days of the week. You could go through each one, but that actually will apply it. One caveat there, if you have those grouped, that may not work. So as long as they're not grouped, you shouldn't have any problems. So those are all a style. Now we can go in to this one and make a new one. Okay, made that new one there. And we're going to call this numbers. So those are the numbers, or you name it days, whatever helps you remember. We're going to take the selection tool, select all of those, and click on numbers. And that's where you've got your template. Okay. So we're ready to start and build the rest of them. From that point, we only have one page. So we need to make the rest of the pages. Before we get too far, let's go up here and do Save or Command S or Control S. And we want to bring up the Pages palette. It should be on the right hand side. All the floating palettes are typically under the Window drop down menu. So Window and Pages, there's page 1. Okay. If I drag this down, it copies that. I get page 2. Okay. So I have 2 pages. So I could go down and change that name, or if I wanted to, I could select this one, hold down the Shift key, select that second one. Now I've got 2 pages selected. If I drag those down to the new icon, that will actually copy them. So now I've got 4 pages. You can do the same thing. So select page 4, hold Shift. That selects 1 through 4. If I click on 1, holding Shift, drag that down to the new icon. Now I should have 8. So 12 months, we just need 4 more. Select those and drag those down to 12. Now you've got 12. I'm going to save it again. And now I can start formatting it. So be careful. Remember Command minus or Control minus and plus will zoom in and out. Make sure you're working on the right page at this point. Okay. Reference your numbers. So January would be the 1st, starting on a Thursday, ending on the 31st of a Saturday, and you would go through and format all of those. So make sure you're on page 1. If you double click it here, you can see that that gets highlighted. See the number underneath? That's the key thing to see where you're at. I can select multiple pages to reorganize them, to move them around, to manipulate these. So there's any number of reasons why I would be able to select them. But to know which one you're currently working on, use that one underneath or the number underneath when it's highlighted. That's how you know you're on that page. So right now we're working on page 1, January. It's great. So we're going to come in. I like to leave these boxes so you can use it for another template next year or if you mess up. So I'm just highlighting these and deleting these. The first starts on a Thursday, so we'll go in there 1, 2, 3, 4, and manually type it in. Now this is the tricky part. It's manual, so have someone double check it and double check yourself. But the nice thing is it gets you in working with InDesign, working on these pages. You've got to put 12 pictures in. You've got to manipulate this. So this will get you into the program and hopefully break down your fear. I find a lot of students that don't do this are kind of intimidated by InDesign, don't want to work in InDesign. Really, InDesign's easy to learn. You just need to get there and get in and use it. So I'm just going through typing all these numbers. Most of them are done. Oops, did that too many times. Any extra ones that I had, I would just take out those numbers. And I'll show you one more thing once I finish these. 6. Make sure you don't do numbers twice. Hopefully I haven't done that. And then 30. Just double check yourself. Make sure. Oh, 31. 31 days in January. Good to know. And then the rest of these I can just highlight and delete those out. Like I said, I do like to leave those boxes in case you use that as a template next year. Save this file. You can see that's 31. Now, holiday. If you wanted a holiday, maybe we want holidays to be red. So we're going to the first, it's a holiday. We're going to go into swatches after we highlight it. And you can see there's a T in that icon. T in the fill now. That means we're working with the type. That's what that indicates. And then the box would be the text box. And we're just going to double click red. Or click one time there, select the red. So when I deselect it or switch to the selection tool and click away from it, I deselected it there, you can see that that holiday is red. Okay. So what we'll do is I'll bring my cursor back in there, get the type tool, get that cursor in here, and we're going to hit new on the paragraph style. We're going to make a new paragraph style and call it holidays. So if we have another holiday, say we wanted to do the 14th, it's not a federal holiday where you get off, we could highlight the 14th. Okay, and we know that February is going to start on a Sunday. Okay, interesting month. It's a perfect month. Starts on a Sunday and ends on a Saturday. So you can see that once again referencing timeanddate.com. Make sure you got a 2015 calendar. It's the right year. So we can go in here 1, 2. Okay. Oh, probably ought to change this first. Make sure we're on February. Okay, and you can see I messed up on my box. It didn't build it big enough. But we can just take the selection tool and expand it. Make sure you leave enough room to be able to do that. That's a key thing there. But you can see February, got to check the spelling, usually mess that one up. So I could go through till I get to the 14th. So on the 14th, if I wanted to mark that as a holiday, Valentine's Day, could just come in here and select the holiday paragraph style and it applies it to it. Okay, and that's nice. It's also nice if I decide I want to change it and I decide maybe I don't want that color. Let's see, where did the color go? Should have been able to see color. I know we can change the font size. I was thinking you could change color, but we could come in. Let's just do, I'm not seeing it. Oh, right here. There's character color. So there's the color. Say we wanted to change it to a black and maybe make it a 50%, so it's a light gray. Click OK. You can see that it automatically changes it. And it changes it for both of them. And if you want to go back and say character color, no, I want it red at 100%. There we go. So that's the nice features of using the paragraph styles, having those set up right, and making sure everything's in place. So that's the setup for the basic calendar. Then you'd have to go through and format all the rest of the months. So I already started one. We'll bring up another one that I've got fairly well worked through, and show you how we bring in the images. We could probably use either one for this, but we've got to set up the images right. So I've got Photoshop open. I've got a picture here from Arches, and we're going to go ahead and format this picture. So the main thing is you bring it in and get it to print resolution. So we're going to go to image, image size, and right here you want this to be 300. Typically you don't want the resample on. That could lose information or make up information. So typically that's unchecked, and printing resolution's 300. You should see those change, and we're going to go from 50 inches to 12. Okay, if you click OK, you can see that that's a nice big photo we can work with. The other thing is we want to change the color mode, image mode, and change that from RGB is typically what most cameras shoot at. All digital cameras are shooting in RGB. We want to change that to CMYK, assuming that this is going to print. Okay. So we change it to CMYK, and then we're going to save it. So File and Save. File organization becomes critical for InDesign projects, so it's really convenient if you keep a folder. In this case, we've got the folder called 11x17 calendar. Could even make a folder called images. This one we're going to call double arch. And the preferred format for printing is a TIFF format. That is a bigger file format, and there's more to do with that, but typically that's the one you want to use. So we're going to save it as a TIFF. Here I like to use the LZW. I always keep it IBM PC. It shouldn't make a difference on your Mac, and it may make a difference on your PC. The Mac will be able to open it, so the PC is the one that could have problems with it. So typically I just keep it as an IBM PC byte order. So click OK there, and that saves that file, and you've got it ready to bring into InDesign. So we're going to hide Photoshop, come back and select this box that we created earlier. So we go to January, select that box, go to File and Place, and bring in that photo. So there's that photo. So when you bring it in, you can work with this. The black arrow, the selection arrow, will let you resize the box, move the box around, manipulate, or I keep saying box, but I meant to say frame. So it'll let you manipulate that graphic frame. If you want to work with the image inside, you can just hover over it, and when you get to that circle, you'll get the hand. And when you select it, you should see the red guides. That shows you how big it is. Now, that's 100%. So the rule in InDesign is that we can't go bigger than 100%. If you set it to 300 dpi, you don't want to go bigger. If you need to go smaller, you can go smaller, but not bigger. So that's the typical rule of thumb for print. And you can see that that's at 96%. So that's kind of an illusion. If you switch tools or deselect this, come back and select that there, it's going to say 100%. That's the box. It will always be 100% no matter what size it is. If you click on the image or graphic, so you select the graphic itself, you'll see the percentage is quite a bit different. Okay? And that's where you can move it around, change your placement, and manipulate that a little bit. So we're going to change that back to 100% and just play with where that goes. So when you're there, you can also change your view. So we can do preview view, and that's just the letter W is the shortcut. Okay. Command minus or control minus, zoom out a little bit, and that's what it's going to look like. So January's done, just got to progress through February and the rest of the months to see how that will come together. And that's how you make a calendar manually. Like I said, this is a great way to go through and get into InDesign and start working in InDesign. So hopefully you guys will like this and will help you learn the program.